What a treat today, friends, to bring you a topic that I am incredibly passionate about, and that is telepathy, the telepathy tapes. And I had somebody recently come back into my life who was here in very early days watching the Squamish medium thrive and spirit school kind of be built. And she was here in much earlier days, and she came back into my life this year through a lot of synchronicity and I think a lot of divine orchestration. So we were in a beautiful exchange where I was supporting her in some mentorship, and then she gifted me time back to pick her brain about some of the questions I had around the telepathy tapes. So I did ask her, would you mind if I record this and possibly share some of this on the podcast? So we're going to do that for you all, just knowing I do want to have her back as a guest, proper heads up that this is going to be a podcast. I just wanted to share with you guys our discussion, but wanted to prompt you in advance as you're listening to this, as you go listen to season 1 specifically of the telepathy tapes. If you have questions, please let me know, because I want to have Eileen back and bring forward some of your questions on this topic as well. But what you hear today are just things that I had prepped and had on my heart and on my mind to bring through. And then, of course, the conversation deepens as she shares some of her incredible stories. So, very lightly edited just for privacy and confidentiality. Both of us work with vulnerable populations. And yeah, I hope you really enjoy this conversation and this topic and meeting my dear friend Eileen.
So, my name is Eileen Himel, and I work with the non-speaking autistic community and their parents as well. I do utilizing the letter boards, training purposeful movement in the body, and coaching nervous system regulation. And I also work with the parents in the spiritual mental health space through one-on-one online coaching. And actually, my most recent client is a letterboard practitioner herself, and we're just working on her stuff. So that is the work that I do.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm a mama to a little sweet baby named Finley.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I'm so excited to be here with you. And how did we meet?
Oh, okay. Huh, this is interesting too. So, whenever I started working with the non-speakers on the letterboards and discovered that they could tune in telepathically with me, I just got a really big sense that I needed to work with someone in the spirit world. Really did. It's like I wanted to make sense of it all. I wanted to understand more about the unseen, and I had accidentally downloaded a podcast with you. I heard about this podcast that I wanted to listen to, so I went to the podcast thinking it was the one and just downloaded a random episode, and it was you. But it wasn't the right podcast. So it was like total accident, but I was like enthralled by whatever you were talking about. I was just pulled. It was like I was just pulled to your voice. And I even messaged my husband. I was like, let's forget about the plan. I'm going to go to school for mediumship. That's what I told him. I said, I'm going to mediumship school. I'm going to spirit school. But I started looking into your stuff, and I just felt called to work with you. And so I did, which kind of was, it really was out of character for me. I kind of conceptually thought that I was good, and I hadn't gone through my healing journey yet. And you just opened the doors for me. Yeah, so that's how we met. We did mentorship
Yeah, that
for,
was in 2021, I believe.
I think it was 2020 online with your business. Yeah.
Yeah, so 2020, and we reconnected this year through synchronicity, and the telepathy tapes was so impactful for me. What I wanted to ask you first is, how did you get started originally? Like, when did this first come to you?
Yeah, so I have a younger brother who his name is Luke, and he is like, oh my gosh, Danielle, I don't know if you've met Earth Angels, but if you saw him, you'd be like, oh, this is an angel. He even has like his eyes. I want to say that like the pigment, they're like, there's no pigment. He has no pigment in his eyes, so they're just a white blue, right? So, and he was developmentally delayed. He didn't start speaking. I guess you could say he started speaking around 7. He had a lot of physical delays. And so he had so many therapies and a lot of, I worked at his school whenever I was in high school and college, and there were autistic kids there. So it was kind of like I was always around autism or always knew about it. And when I was going for my master's in mental health counseling, I just fell into a job because it just felt very natural to start doing what's called ABA therapy with the non-speaking autistic population. and felt very natural, did that. I will say that I took this job at this place. It was a huge facility for ABA, and I was excited about it because I thought I'd be good at it. I've been around this my whole life, but it'd been a while since I'd probably been around someone who was like profoundly like nonverbal autistic. It had been a while. And my first day, which is so interesting, this is like an interesting synchronicity now that I'm just kind of like playing it out. There was this kid named and eyes met, and I felt a zing. I was like, it was like almost like he saw me. It was almost this thing like in a moment, like I understood, oh, they know everything, but it's like that's what the knowing was, but there's no way I could have put language around that or validated it or anything. It was just like a moment where I felt it, right? So did that for a while, and it just so happens that the owners of the place, their daughter started doing the letterboards with someone. And I brought her to her letterboard sessions. And like probably 6 months down the road, maybe 8 months down the road, she was like typing sentences. And I'm just like watching, like jaw on the floor, like, what the heck on here? What is going on? Because you have to understand, I don't know if it's like this in Canada, but like over here, we're very conditioned to think that they're like low cognitively. And I was doing all this very low work with her. She was still identifying furniture and fruits and stuff like that. And she wasn't even very consistent with getting it right half the time, right? And then so I see her typing full sentences and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? And in that moment, and it just so happened, I was in a place where I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't necessarily want to go through with the counseling thing anymore. I just didn't feel ready at that time, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And that just blew my socks off. And I was like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
And it was there was a lot of fear around it because it was very controversial, very controversial. And then a lot of my colleagues around me were like, you know, that's against these rules. And I just knew in my soul though. And so I did it. And that's how I got started. That's how.
Yeah. And how long ago was that? What year are we talking?
Okay, so that was so when I started, went to go learn and get certified, that was like 2017. And I started my business that year. And then, so I had a few clients that I worked with on my own. And then I also worked at this facility in Georgia, which is where I got to learn from JP. And those were my buds from probably 2019 to like, I don't know, 2021, 2022, something like that.
I just feel like you've answered such a beautiful calling and
Mhm.
one that I just absolutely love hearing more about. I have so many questions for you, but I suppose one of them is this telepathy. Have you experienced that? You've seen the letterboard and you've seen the words written, but when it comes to the telepathy, have you experienced?
Oh God. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can, for all of my clients, I can hold up a board and if I'm thinking a word, they can spell it out for
Okay.
sure.
And you've
Like
tested this? Like,
oh yeah, yeah, it's 100% real. It's like old news to me now, like old news, but I still very interesting, intriguing, and there needs to be more conversation about it because this is real and it's happening, right?
yeah.
Even the ethics around things, I feel like it needs to be out on the table. But anyways, long story short, when I was working at this place where, and it's so funny because when I first started working with you, I was working with
Oh,
JP.
really?
Yes. But I was learning, right? I was learning and I was learning in this place. And long story short, when you do letterboard, you're training reliable motor patterns, okay? So you start off with something called a known word. So that means we both know it. And it's okay, today we're learning about fruit, okay? So they know that I said it. And I know that's what I'm asking. So, what are we learning about? And so I prompt them to spell fruit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then when you get that down, then you move to what's called semi-open. So it's when they're more reliable on the boards, you start to be, okay, we're learning about, let's say furniture, chair, table, and sofa. What do you want to talk about, right? So I don't know what they're going to choose. I don't know if they're going to choose chair. I don't know if they're going to choose sofa, right? And so they have to use their own skills to go and get that first letter. Is that making sense?
Yes, yes.
So I noticed that it just seemed like they were just choosing the ones that I was thinking. And it was just So crazy. It got so crazy to the point where I was like, this is fucking weird.
The fun they're having.
Yes. Yes. They're just, oh my gosh, yes. So
You're like, oh,
true.
it's clicking for her now.
It's clicking for her. She's catching on. She's catching on. And so I went, it got so strong because I was like, okay, look, you're not moving at all. To make sure I wasn't cueing or prompting, because I'm like, do they get the one I'm thinking every time? And yeah, 100% of the time. So I like brought it to my mentor and I was like, I go over to his office. I'm just like, this is gonna sound so weird, but I swear they always, for semi-open, they always choose the one that I'm thinking. It almost feels like they're like reading my mind. He's like, oh, they are. They are.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're joking, right? You're joking. I thought he was playing with me. At this point, I'm full 3D Eileen, only physical reality, very much. And he was, no, I'm serious. So he calls the front desk girl over who's been knowing the autism family who opened up this place forever. And he's tell Eileen, like, they really can read minds. And she's, oh, yeah, for sure. And I was like, okay, y'all are joking, right? I don't know if you want this whole story,
Yeah, I
but.
do. I want it all. Absolutely. I'm enthralled. Are you kidding?
Okay. No. Then she's like, I'm serious. She's, look, whisper a word in my ear, okay? And the guy who like thought up the place and dreamed up the place, he's non-speaking autistic. He's like across, he has his own room in the place. He's like across the place. And so I whisper, I think I whispered dancer in her ear. And then she calls him over. She's like, come see. And then she comes over and then she just holds up the board. And you know what he spells, right?
Of
And I
course.
just fall on the floor. I'm just like, what the hell? Yeah.
I have
And then my whole world just was turned upside down. And I told my husband about it. Luckily, he had done like a few mushroom trips, so he was able to believe me. I feel like him and I would not be on the same page had he not.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, did you have a moment of a Matrix moment of flashbacks to experiences you might have had with your brother growing up?
I had moments where I feel like he's conditioned to only be a certain way as well, but to seeing actually his wisdom beyond and his extrasensory perception. There'd be times where we were cooking rice and he looks at the rice and it's so beautiful. I'm like, you think the rice is beautiful? He's probably just seeing I don't know, he's seeing something I'm not seeing,
He's like
right?
synesthesia. He's probably
Yeah.
having a more like synesthesic
Oh,
experience.
I think he is.
Yeah.
And we were just never able to shine a light on that or validate that, just not what we did. But I'm sure he feels what people are thinking. I don't know. He's not autistic. I do think non-speaking autistics, they're just experiencing the energy without any filter. So it's, yeah. At the same time, I do think they're human, but they're human with those abilities and with different lenses,
And a
you know?
big mission, I think.
Oh, a very big mission because I talked about this a lot in the past about how and I'm able to look through this lens now because I'm with them so much. And it's about how every single way that we show up is through a socially conditioned place. So it's whatever energy radiates, it'll come out on a scale of truth to distortion. And because of the way we've been conditioned, a lot of times it is through that distortion. And they, in so many ways, just experience energy. They just experience energy, and their bodies are playing out the energy of the situation. They're like instruments. And so it is a beautiful thing. They have such a beautiful perspective to share with us. And yeah, and just being in that vibration of someone who has not been socially conditioned is a pure experience. But if you are not open to it, you will not feel it, right?
Yeah.
But their vibration does have a way of unwrapping you.
Yeah,
Like,
opening you up. So it's like this attunement.
attunement.
This
Yes.
attuning. It's like either you're going to tune to them or they're going to tune to you. Okay, I have so many questions. I need to try not. I would don't have pen and paper in front of me, or else I would be writing all this down. I don't want to forget. Do you find yourself, or once you had that awareness, did you find yourself trying to manage your thoughts a little bit, control your thoughts a little bit?
Okay, I'll say this. When you first find that out, you're just freaked out. You're like, what the fuck? They know my thoughts. And so you're just trying. So it's very nerve-wracking at the
Pure thoughts
beginning.
only.
Right. Right. And you just drive yourself freaking nuts with it. At the same time, through the healing journey that I've been on, partially because of them and their vibration, you realize, oh, you become way more relaxed with it. you're just truer with yourself. The mask is off and you
Yeah.
understand true forgiveness and things like that. I'm way more comfortable with it now, but there was a time where I was like, I didn't even know.
And I imagine that authenticity would be a natural state, right?
Hmm.
And they would only be able to accept true authenticity. But I remember when
Hmm.
The Secret first came out and I watched the documentary and it completely exhausted me trying to like think positively all the time. I was like, I'm too exhausted. I'm like, I just want to be my normal self and I gave up within one day. So I imagine trying to control the mind would just be exhausting. You couldn't even. You're like, I have no choice
No.
but to be authentic here in this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
so one of the things that came up, and I'm curious about your perspective on this, and before we kind of hit record, I was like sobbing to you and just saying like how life-changing that podcast was for me and how validating so many things were around, and how I love the word awe. I was in awe listening to
Mhm.
it. It was something that brought me a lot of inspiration and awe. And there was one parent who was saying that she was like reading a book and her nonverbal autistic son could have a discussion with her like it was a book club. So her question was, and I don't think I ever got fully answered, and I'm curious about your take on this, but she was like, can he see through my eyes or can he read what's going on in my mind? And I'll tell you why I question this and I just am so deep about it because sometimes spirit will let me see their loved ones through their eyes. And sometimes
Mm.
that will be a prayer. Can you allow me to see this through your eyes? Or sometimes
Mhm.
my prayer when I'm feeling down on myself will be, angels, can I see myself through your eyes?
I love
As a
that.
way to kind of
Mhm.
restore. I'm curious what you think. Do you think that they could see through the eyes and it's not just thought transfer?
I'll tell you this. Whether it is through the eyes or if it's, I think their consciousness travels. I think their consciousness can travel. So they can be there in a sense. If their body's over here, I believe that they can be there looking at the page, almost without a body. Right? Because that's what we are. We're consciousness at this point filtered through this body. And we are so convinced by our sensory system because we're like hooked into it, plugged into it, right? We're convinced of the eyes of the filter. You tap into senses beyond, but most people don't. So I think that because they're not fully in their body, he was probably just there with her, reading the page with her. I do think too that I'll tell this really quick story. Before I knew about this, when I worked at that other place that I was telling you about, one of my clients, it was actually the same one that I told you about. She was like obsessed with this toy, and the her BCBA, which is the leader of her case, was like, hide the toy, right? We hid the toy. There's this huge place, a bunch of shelves, a bunch of boxes and stuff. We hid this toy in a certain room, and then after work that day, and she wasn't even at the facility anymore. And the next day she came, I got her, she beelined, pulled out where the toy was, took the
Just
toy
straight to it.
out. And so I'm like, that was like, whoa. I'm like, did she see us do it? Did she tune into our thoughts to know that it was there? I don't know. But I do
Yeah.
think their awareness travels. And before all the validation that I got through the telepathy tapes and my circles with the telepathy tapes people, I was working in Atlanta and then I moved to Louisiana and I would feel JP visit me. I would feel visit me. I would feel visit me.
Yeah.
And I didn't really trust it, but I felt it. It was like they were here. It was like they were here. And then when I listened to the telepathy tapes, I was like, oh, they were probably visiting me.
I remember when I did the reading for you, and I didn't know it was JP, but JP coming through. I kept hearing over and over again in my head before we even got on Zoom, Louisiana.
Um,
And it was one of the first things I
mm,
said to you. I'm like, you have a connection to Louisiana? Because I knew you in Georgia. You're
yeah.
like, oh, I moved to Louisiana. So very
Yeah.
interesting. I do believe that would be the case. That is a fascinating story. And you're right. Actually, you just kind of piece together things for me. The consciousness travels. It's a great way to look at it. And I love hearing near death experiences. Exactly how people who had near death experiences describe their consciousness after the body goes away. It's like I
Mhm.
was in the waiting room, I was in the hospital room, I was in the ambulance all at once. There was just
Right.
no limitation
There's no
because there
limitation.
was no carnal body. Yeah,
Exactly.
all clicking for me here, all
Yes.
clicking for me.
Yes.
Okay, I want to touch on the skepticism here for a minute as well, because I teach an ethics program because mediumship operates in an unregulated space. I don't believe in regulations because it leaves too many people behind and it
Hmm.
puts things that shouldn't be in a neat and tidy box in a neat and tidy box. And
Hmm.
as we know, once you get out of that box, There's a lot of discourse, right? But the skepticism is interesting for me around lettering. You're very passionate about assuming competency.
The reason why I'm so strong on presuming competence is it goes back to the body is conditioned, and their body will be conditioned by the confines of how much you believe in them and how you interpret them as. And so if you have a very limited interpretation of them because they can't control their body like we can, they're locked up, right? There's no way out. And this comes to what I've learned in this journey is that belief is a real, actual, palpable thing, and it's a force, and it can open doors within the body because I've seen it. I've seen it. And this is how come, let's say a skeptic goes to try and do the letterboard with someone and they can't move,
Yeah.
but somebody who they trust, somebody who believes in them, they can move freely. And it also ties into regulation. The more regulated you are, I've experienced this in myself for so many years, just being dysregulated and not expressing certain parts of my personality that were asserting things and just being in ways that I wasn't comfortable with yet. Like my mouth wouldn't open. So it's true for us too. They're teaching us to tap into truths in ourselves that we've never been able to explore because there was no belief around it. Belief is just such a powerful thing. And I always say presume competence because they will be able to show you if you allow them to. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there was a story on the telepathy tapes where it works with mom but not dad, right?
Hmm.
Belief probably has a lot to do with that. And I imagine the healing journey that a lot of the parents would have to go through would be huge in nature. Life transfer and the ripple effect would be great because you would probably have to overcome a lot of beliefs that you would have to work through.
Yeah, 100%. These parents are definitely on a journey, no
Yeah.
matter which way you put it. And I see a lot of parents really rising to the occasion and expanding, and they're being called to step into their power in a way that they've never been prompted to before. But I do see other parents, because we aren't given the tools, kind of stuck in fear.
I appreciate you bringing that through because I do think that beliefs are so powerful. They're part of our co-creation of our immediate future, right?
Hmm.
And I love that quote, you'll see it when you believe it. It's I'll believe it when I
Mhm.
see it. It's like you'll see it when you believe it. I think that there's so much
That's
truth
what they're
to that.
teaching us too. They're teaching us vibration of true faith because faith is more than just a word, right? It's a state of being, it's a vibration, and you get to live that out with them, right? Yeah, I just interviewed a mom and she has telepathic communication with her son. And when she started following it and validating it, he started speaking. Not back and forth, but it's like you see miraculous results. And so they're teaching us, hey, your intuition and your power, it's not just some woo-woo thing.
Yeah.
It's for real, real.
I said this from the very beginning, like when people talk about the Great Awakening, that's what this is. This to me feels like this is the Great Awakening
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's not that different from how we communicate mediumistically as well, except for what I find just even through listening to telepathy tapes is 100%. I'm more like 70, 80%. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so one of my questions for you that I'm just so interested about as a medium, I need to attune to the spirit world through sitting in the power, through meditating, to attuning to my own spirit, which is more like the spirit world that I'm connecting into. We have this attunement process. I imagine you would had to have been educated through books, a more academic route to be able to do what you do. But is there a spiritual attunement that you've taken on as a practice or if you've seen beneficial to communicating in this really deep way? Like, how do you balance the two? Because it is deeply spiritual,
It's so
but
deeply.
it's also rooted in therapy practices and things that you would have had to go get a degree on.
Letterboard itself is still a very unregulated space. Me and my mentor now say that we're like free range because the people the
Yeah.
people who I did do the original certification years ago, but the people who do those certifications don't acknowledge telepathy and they pretend like it's not real and it doesn't exist. And that's just not the truth. And I did build my business when I was very much in the 3D. I didn't start off acknowledging those things, but I'm moving into doing that now. And I always felt a big, like how you said, this is part of the rise of consciousness, the great awakening. I always felt that. I did. I was never able to acknowledge it until down the road, but it was like this very big thing that I knew was connected to them. And that's what I felt when I looked at that first time, right? And now I know that. So right now, I still take continuing ed courses on, like I just bought one the other day. Me and my employee did it like on the actual letterboards. But the biggest part of being successful in this is, yes, your own spiritual practice. Every single day I'm meditating. I am working on my regulation because I know that a lot of my clients depend on it to be successful at this point. And of course, I just feel better whenever we're co-regulating together. So it's for me too. Not everybody sees it that way. Obviously, not everybody in the letterboard world is spiritual, but I do think there's a large group of us that are and are being called to the spiritual path.
How has it changed you as a person? The world, how you move in the world?
It's really helped me look at like ego operating in the world because ego is the mask that you put on. I'm not saying ego is good or bad or anything like that, but it's almost as if they definitely can't have that. Like they are just energy. And so I got to see all the ways in which I was afraid and the ways in which I was doing things like out of like impurity and the ways in which I was like wounded. So just because of them holding that vibration of truth. And so it's like they brought all these things to the surface for me that I've continuously had to sort out, right?
Okay.
And they are attuned, in my opinion, to obviously energy in the spirit world, and that it brought me back to that. I think I was there when I was younger but didn't acknowledge it at all, and so I was able to rediscover that part of me and uncover that part of me.